lecture. We are honored to have Mr. Ravindra Yadav with us, who is a renowned expert in the field of innovation. With his vast experience and knowledge, he will share valuable insights on the topic innovation and startup ecosystem enablers, which is a crucial aspect of industry today. This lecture is a great opportunity for us to learn from the best and gain new perspectives. We are confident that our speaker's expertise will inspire and enlighten us, and we look forward to an engaging and informative session. Before we begin, I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Ravindra Yadav of taking the time to be with us today. We appreciate your willingness to share your expertise with us. He is currently working as Chief Operating Officer at YCC TBI, and he was formerly working as COO at Atal Incubation Center, Manipal University, Jaipur, and also served as Chief Operating Officer at the same. Now, I request Mr. Ravindra Yadav to start the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Umang. Okay, very good morning, everyone. Because can you confirm, am I audible or not?
Yeah, you are audible perfectly, sir.
Okay. So very good morning, everyone. So I'm Ravindra Yadav. Basically, I'm the CEO and head of the incubator at YCC TBI Foundation. So I will just quickly share my screen. Just give me a second. Because you have to give the permission to share the screen.
Just a minute, sir. Yeah, I think now you can share.
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, perfect, sir.
And is it changing slides?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will start with the innovation, right? So I'm basically from the innovation side only. And for the first session, it's innovation and startup ecosystem. All right. So okay. So in August 2015, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, he has announced the launch for the National Flagship Initiative, that is Startup India. And that is mainly to encourage and motivate the startups of our country. He actually was dreaming to make our country as a job creator instead of job seeker. So from there it got started. Then he kept the foundation for the AIM Atal Innovation Mission and other incubators as well. And then it all goes from that time. So now coming to the startup. So before startup, I think we should know about the entrepreneur. What an entrepreneur is, right? So who is an entrepreneur? Basically, an entrepreneur is an individual who identify any kind of problem statement into the society. Like if somebody was moving into the society or sitting at home or sitting in the college office somewhere, anywhere, and founding any kind of problem statement and try to find out the solution for the same. So that will be known as an entrepreneur who works to fulfill that problem statement, right? And when he set up a company and make it a scalable business model, so that is known as a startup, right? So that was a general concept of a startup. Now coming to the definition of a startup as per the government of India, right? So there are certain criteria or parameters as per which we define the startup. First thing is age. So a company which is incorporated between 10 years, say post 10 years, we can't call a company as a startup. Once you register a company, you need to register for the DPIIT certification. I will let you know about DPIIT. So once you are DPIIT certified, you will be known as a startup. And that will be 10 years from the date of incorporation. So post 10 years, you will come out of the category of a startup. Now coming to the entity type. So what entity actually Startup India accepts is private limited company, a limited liability partnership, or a partnership. Now to the turnover. The company should not cross a turnover of 100 crore in a fiscal year, means in just a previous year. So if it crosses, it comes out of the category of a startup. Nature of innovation. Yes, there should be something innovative into the company which they are developing. Otherwise, I will just give a simple example. We can open a normal grocery store, right? A Kirana store basically. And we can also open an online Kirana store, right? So there was a difference between these two. The online Kirana store, there was something innovation added into it, that it was converting it into the online, right? And if we speak about the normal Kirana store, that was nothing innovative into it. So we will call our startup as the one who is online rather than the one who is offline. So that some kind of innovation is required to get you the DPIIT certification, right? And if we are having a previous company and we are trying to break it into some other company, and then we will try to register it for the Startup India, we are not going to get any kind of certification from the government in that. So these are basically the requirements of the government to give you a certificate of the Startup India. Post that only your company will be eligible to get the benefits of a startup. Now, as I told, the Startup India registration, earlier it was known as DIPP certification, that is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Now it is known as DPIIT, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Right? So that is actually also known as Startup India certificate. Now what are basically the benefits? Why should we go for the registration of the startup? What we are going to get out of it? So there were certain benefits which I'm going to show into the slides. So these are certain of the benefits: self-certification, tax exemption, single window clearance with the mobile app, patent protection, relaxed rules, incubator setup. The incubators are set up to help those startups. So we will explain. We will see into this. The first one is self-certification. There, for the companies, basically the government has made certain labor laws and environmental. If you are a startup, the inspection against 6 labor laws and 3 environmental laws were relaxed by the government. Means you can self-certify yourself that you are basically following the compliances as per those laws, and the government will accept. They are not going to inspect those particular laws. So that was the self-certification that can be done by an individual startup. Coming to the IPR, startup patent, basically 3 things come: patent, trademark, and copyright. Right. So for the startup, what the government has done is, for registering a patent, there was around 80% of rebate given to the startup. For example, if I am an individual and I'm going to register a patent, so that may cost, including the attorney fees, around somewhere around say 70,000 to 1 lakh rupees. But if I am a startup, that patent will be going to be registered onto my startup date, and I have to pay around in the starting itself. I'm not going to get it reimbursed, but in the initial only I have to pay 15 to 20,000. That was around 80% rebate was given from the government end for filing a patent. Similarly, for the trademark also, there was a 50% rebate on the trademark and copyright. So also the government has given the certain rules to the offices, that for the startup there will be a fast tracking of startup patent application. Initially, when we file the patent as an individual, it takes months, many months. But if we are a startup, it will go on a fast track, and we will get the patent granted very soon. Coming to the tax exemption, for the first 3 years, if you are a startup company, you don't have to give any kind of tax to the government. If you are not a startup and you are just a company, in that case, you need to pay the taxes from the first year starting. But for the startup, it was relaxed for 3 years, first 3 years. Easy winding up of company. Sometimes it happens that because of some XYZ reasons, because of some internal reasons, some bankruptcy or some other reasons, you have to close the company. So if you are a company, that was supposed to be closed within a time span of 4 years. Up to 4 years, it was supposed to be closed. But if you are a startup, the government has made a regulation, made a rule that will be closed within the 90 days. If you register your company as a company closer by today, the government has to close the company of a startup. So that was a relaxation given from the government. Okay, public procurement norms. So there were certain, say, GEM portal, government e-marketplace, some other portal was there, right? So there, when a normal company registers for it, either have to go for some deposit of some security money, and some norms were there. But for the startup, those things were relaxed. You can directly register there without paying any kind of fees, and you can start selling your product. So the procurement norms, which is made for the startups, were relaxed up to a great extent in those cases. Now coming to the benefits for the women entrepreneurs. Okay, so women entrepreneurs, in the name of startup ecosystem, we call them as a womanpreneur. Not women entrepreneur, but womanpreneur. So there were certain additional benefits which are given to the womenpreneurs from the government end. There was some monthly allowance given to the womenpreneurs, and that starts from 10,000 to now even it was 25,000 per month for 1 year only. So just suppose I am having a startup and we are 3 directors in it, and there are 2 womenpreneurs and 1 male entrepreneur were there in it. So both the womenpreneurs are going to get a stipend from 10 to 25,000 per month depending on the state. So different states have different policies. So according to them only, they are going to provide the stipend to those womenpreneurs. And it was a basically stipend. You don't have to return it to the government. That's what I mean to say. So up to 1 year, you are going to get that. Next, the government has made certain schemes for the women entrepreneurs, right? You can get certain loans or the loan kind of benefits from the different banks for your own startup. Specifically for the womenpreneurs, I'm saying. It's not about the, you can say male entrepreneur. It's for the womenpreneurs. So some of them are like Bharatiya Mahila Bank business loan that is provided to the womenpreneurs for their running their own business. Mudra Yojana scheme was there, Dena Shakti scheme was there, Udyogini scheme was there, Sant Kalyani scheme was there, Mahila Udyam Niti scheme was there, and women entrepreneurship platform was there, which provide additional benefits to the womenpreneurs. We will discuss about in detail about these schemes some other day because of the time constraint we have to stick with certain topics only. Now coming to the startup challenge. Okay, you have made a startup, you have got all these benefits, but there was also certain challenges for the startup in India. And yes, in startup ecosystem, we call that if your startup gets failed, it's the kind of learning which you get, a kind of experience which you get for your next company to initiate. So these are certain challenges for the startup: lack of mentorship, execution, how to execute. If you have designed a product, how to execute it, how to go for the marketing strategies, funding support, yes, it is there. Planning if a proper planning was not there for your own company, then it will be difficult. Lack of innovation. If it is not an innovative product, then the user are not going to buy it. In that case, the startup will get failed. Human resources and poor ethics. So if we see the current scenario in India, there were around 95% of the startups which get wrap up within the first 3 years only. So what I feel is the max, say, there were these, even though there were these reasons for those kind of, failure of those startup, but there was a main reason that is actually the mentors. If the startup will get a proper mentorship from a proper mentor, like he or she can guide the startup, what to launch, how to launch, in how many phases it is launched, what the strategy they are supposed to accept, and they are go to market strategy. So these are basically the kind of things the mentor tells the startup. And yes, many of the time it was observed that the startup won't look for the mentorship program. They basically look for the funding support. Nowadays, the government has provided many funding opportunities for the startup. You can get those funding from the government under different schemes. So the mentorship is something which is actually required by the startup, and you have to search for a correct mentor for your startup in order to run it into the market. Right? So that was the main reason, I would say. A similar, if I would give an example, you guys are coming into this college for learning out something, and you have the faculty. Those faculties are basically the mentors for you guys. And in our ecosystem, we have the mentors for the startup. Right? So the same. Okay. I had some means into that. Say earlier, what happened when we speak about the startup ecosystem at our home, that we are going to register a company and we are going to have a startup. So this is the condition at our home and even with our friends, right? So हाथ जोड़कर गुजारिश है आपसे, दूर रहिए मेरे बेटे से. Like we are not allowing you to let them register a startup or a company. That was the scene. But when the startup gets a success, so the scenario changes. So this is the scenario of your friends and family at that time. When your startup gets success, that yes, we are wrong at that time, and the startup can work actually into the current scenario. Right? So कामयाब होने के लिए नहीं, काबिल होने के लिए पढ़ना चाहिए, as you say. So I have, these are basically certain innovative ideas. You guys can look into it. So this is basically a washing machine that can work into 2 ways. You are going to get good exercise in the morning, and also the clothes can be washed without electricity into that way. On the second side, it was showing a bicycle which can, even uh, go on the sea also. Like instead of the road, it can go into the sea also. Next, this is something which is made compared easier for the labor classes to carry on the load. So you can easily carry the loads using this particular device to save yourself from environmental conditions. And yes, this is a basically idea. Since it was accepted by say some poor class fellow, we can laugh onto it that yes, but it was actually the problem statement. He identified the problem statement. He has two kids, and now the question is how to drop both the kids safely into the school in the morning. So he identified the problem statement. He get the solution for it, and the solution was developed. If this kind of solution was developed by somebody educated and that kind of person, if you put this kind of thing in a proper showcasing, so that gonna be sold into a higher price. The washing machine, bucket washing machine, that was again the innovation. So it is compact, can be carried out anywhere, and can easily use for washing the clothes. Okay, so this is basically the startup which actually working on the bamboo made headphones. So nobody has thought earlier that we can make these kind of headphones using the bamboo. But this startup actually thought about it, came out of the society that yes, this is basically the problem statement that when we throw these kind of headphones post use, so it creates the kind of issues into the environment. It's a plastic. So why not to go a kind of sustainable kind of thing? So we will provide a bamboo headphones. Okay. So mythical phrase. So these were developed by some of the startup, but yes, this is something which our ancestors used to use. So this is something which don't even need the electricity and keep your things cool. Mythical freeze, it is known as. Then mechanical tree climber. Even though if you might have seen in the society or even on the internet that there are many devices available made now to climb the tree. So this is one of the mechanical climb tree which is made in starting. Okay, so this is a student startup. One more thing I would like to clarify into our ecosystem, two things are not there. One is age bar. Any person, maybe a 11-year-old student, maybe a 35-year-old person going out of job, or maybe a 80 years old person. Anybody can register for a startup, can go for a startup. We don't have an age bar. We won't call them as a student or that kind of thing. We will call all of them as an entrepreneur. For us, all of them are equal. So we don't have an age bar, first thing. Second thing, we don't have a graduation bar. It's not necessary that you should be a graduate, you should be a postgraduate. Even a fifth class student can register his or her startup and can go for it. So that was the kind of relaxation given into the startup ecosystem. So this is basically a 15-year-old boy who has actually developed a 100 crore company. I have just going to show you a video of it. So this is a 15-year-old boy who can go for a startup, registering the startup and can make a turnover of 100 CR. So why not you guys? The only thing you have to think something different than others. That is what actually he has done. One more startup, this is even though in abroad, but yes, this was a kind of civil startup, you can say. The technology used for the construction, complex parts. Okay, so this was also the problem statement identified by someone and the solution was given. So what exactly you need to? You need to find out the problem statement into the society and then you can easily find out the solutions for that. Okay. Earlier, in the starting, even I'm from Haryana, so हम कहते थे पहले initially कि भैंस से कौन रुपए कमाएगा, है ना? सो इन दोनों लड़कियों ने एक स्टार्टअप स्टार्ट किया एनिमल के नाम से, है ना? एंड इन्होंने ऑनलाइन भैंस और गाय वगैरह जो है मेनली भैंस बेचनी शुरू की ऑल ओवर इंडिया, राइट? एंड उन्होंने एक टाइम पे 565 CR का टर्नओवर बनाया, एक जस्ट एक बेफेलो सेल कर। ये दोनों बैठे थे, इन्हें जस्ट आइडिया है कि मैं ये चीज की रिक्वायरमेंट थी, क्यों नहीं इस चीज के लिए हम सबके लिए सॉर्ट आउट करें। तो इन्होंने जस्ट एक आइडिया लगाया। तो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट को आइडेंटिफाई करना जरूरी है। पहले के टाइम कहते थे कि आप प्रॉब्लम्स को अवॉइड करिए, प्रॉब्लम से दूर रहिए, बट नाउअडेज आई वुड से इनटू द स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम वी से कि जस्ट फॉलो द प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स। अगर आप प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स को फॉलो करेंगे तो आपको अपने आप सॉल्यूशंस आना शुरू करेंगे एंड यू कैन इजीली सेट अप योर ओन कंपनी एंड देन स्टार्ट। Okay, so these are some of the successful startup by the dropouts. Why dropouts? As I told in the starting that there are no education bar into this ecosystem. So you don't necessarily that you are supposed to be a graduate. Even I have certain of some of my startups. I was actually mentoring 100+ startup nowadays, and I have some of the startup who are actually drop out during the graduation, right? And they want to go for the startup ecosystem. They want to think something differently. So it's not necessary that you should be a graduate. And also, I'm not saying that you should be a dropout. But yes, the graduation was actually not necessary. So Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, and yes, the last one, I think everybody knows about it, right? Bhanu Pratap Bus Service. So these are basically some of the successful startup by the dropout, right? Sometimes it happens when you initially register your startup. So it happens with everybody. That ऐसा लगता है कि like whether we are an entrepreneur or we are like unemployed. So it takes some struggle. Struggle is there. So you have to work hard into those cases and also work smart. So to get the success for the startup, right? So as I told that you identify the problem statement, you run behind the problem statement to make a startup. Don't run away from the problem statement. Just identify the problem statement and run behind them to get the solution for it and register your own startup. Right? So this is basically the first session, the startup ecosystem. I'm open for the questions or any queries. Vikasi, am I audible? Hello.
Good morning, sir. Sir,
Good morning.
my name is Simran. I'm BTech. I'm pursuing BTech in final year. So, sir, my question is how startups can ensure that they stay innovative while scaling their operations.
Basically, you need, as I told, that the mentor, right? You need a mentor who is actually going to tell you, as per the market needs, you have to be updated. Right? We see some certain, all of you are using the Androids or iPhone. Right? There were certain apps into it. Why those apps needs update after every 15, 20 minutes or those 15 days or 20 days kind of thing? That is basically they update themselves so that they won't get copied by others. Right? You need to get updated as per the market. If you have developed, just suppose a pen, so this pen is not going to work throughout your startup journey, but you have to add innovations into it. So the mentor helps you out that what innovations you can add into it and up to what stages you have to launch it, so that it won't be copied by others. There were many of the cases when the startup won't be able to register the patent. In that case, it is very easy for others to copy this kind of technology. So once you are preparing for the updates into the technology, then it won't be